The moment you start building real savings, real money, not a couple $100 in a checking account, but actual accumulated wealth, something shifts, not just in your finances, in your relationships, in your family, in your friendships. And almost nobody talks about this part. You tell people you got a raise, they smile. You tell people you paid off your car, they clap. You tell people you just crossed $50,000 in invested assets, and something changes. The room changes. The energy changes. People start asking questions that don't feel like questions. They start making jokes that don't feel like jokes. Here's the thing, nobody tells you when they hand you all the advice about budgeting and investing in compound interest. The money itself is not the hardest part. The people are. My name is Randy, and this is Randy Talks Money. We spend a lot of time in the personal finance world talking about what to do with money. Open a Roth IRA, max your 401k, build a 6-month emergency fund, dollar cost average into index funds. That advice is real. That advice works. I talk about it all the time, and I will keep talking about it. But there is a layer of personal finance that almost nobody addresses directly. And it costs people more than bad investment decisions. It costs them more than high-fee funds. It costs them more than waiting too long to start. It is the social cost of building wealth in a community, a family, a friend group, a workplace, where most people are not doing the same thing. The conventional wisdom says, share your wins, be open, inspire others, tell your cousin what you are doing so he can do it too. Post your net worth milestones, celebrate publicly. Financial transparency is healthy. Financial shame is the enemy. And here is what makes that conventional wisdom so dangerous. It sounds generous. It sounds like the right thing to do. It feels like you are helping. But here's what actually happens when you start telling people you are building real savings. Some people get inspired. Genuinely. And that is wonderful. But a significant portion of the people in your life, people who love you, people who are not bad people, will respond in ways that quietly drain your momentum, redirect your money, or introduce friction that compounds against you just as powerfully as interest compounds for you. And here's the part nobody ever explains clearly. You cannot predict which people will react which way. You cannot sort them in advance. The cousin you thought would cheer you on becomes the one asking to borrow money. The friend you thought would be competitive becomes your biggest supporter. The parent who raised you to save becomes the one making you feel guilty for not spending on the family vacation. This is not about being selfish. This is not about hiding who you are. This is about protecting a process that is fragile in its early stages and understanding the specific social forces that kill wealth building before it ever gets far enough to survive. This is Marcus. He is 27. He works as a project coordinator at a logistics company in Memphis, Tennessee. He makes $54,000 a year. He has been quietly saving for 18 months. He has $11,200 in a high-yield savings account and $8,400 in a Roth IRA. He is proud of this. He worked for it. He cut back on eating out. He stopped upgrading his phone every year. He is finally getting somewhere. And then his cousin's birthday dinner happens, and someone asks how Marcus has been doing. And Marcus, because he is proud, because he wants to share, because it feels like the right moment, mentions that he has been saving a lot lately, getting serious about it, finally got some real money set aside. The table responds warmly. People nod. Someone says that is great. And then, over the next 4 months, 3 separate people from that dinner approach Marcus privately. One asks to borrow $1,500. One assumes Marcus can cover more of a family expense because he has money now. One starts making comments, casually, always framed as jokes, about how Marcus thinks he is better than everyone since he started watching his budget so carefully. This is Denise. She is also 27. She also works in Memphis. She makes $51,000 a year as an office administrator. She also started saving 18 months ago. She has $10,800 in savings and $7,900 in a Roth IRA, almost identical to Marcus in every way. Denise told nobody, not her mom, not her coworkers, not her best friend. She just kept going. Let me put real numbers to what happens when these two paths diverge. Marcus, over those 4 months, ends up lending $1,500 to his cousin. He tells himself he will get it back. A 2024 survey by Bankrate found that 57% of Americans who have lent money to friends or family say it damaged the relationship, and 27% say they never got the money back at all. That $1,500 is likely gone. But the cost is not just $1,500. If Marcus was contributing $450 a month to a Roth IRA and he drops to $150 a month for 12 months, the difference in contributions is $3,600. At 9% annual return over 30 years, that $3,600 shortfall grows to approximately $47,700 in lost future value. Not because of a bad investment, because of a dinner conversation. In a few minutes, I am going to show you the exact framework for how to handle this, what to say, what not to say, and how to think about money privacy in a way that is not paranoid or antisocial. But first, I need to name what is actually happening here, because most people in Marcus's position think they are failing at relationships. They are not. Here is the uncomfortable truth, the one that nobody in the personal finance world says clearly enough. Building wealth in an environment where most people around you are not building wealth is a lonely, socially disruptive act. And it is not your fault, and it is not their fault. It is a structural reality of how money and community interact, and until you name it, you cannot navigate it. Think about what is actually happening when your cousin asks to borrow money from you after you mentioned you have savings. He is not a bad person. He is operating from scarcity. He sees a resource, he asks for it. This is human behavior, this is normal. But the reason he knows to ask you is because you told him you have it. You handed him the information, and once the information is out, you cannot take it back. Think about what is happening when your coworker starts making jokes about you being too good to eat out anymore. She is not malicious, she is uncomfortable. Your choices implicitly highlight her choices. Your discipline makes her feel something she does not want to feel. She does not have language for that feeling, so it comes out sideways. As a joke, as a comment, as friction. This is where most people get stuck. Because the natural response is either to defend yourself, to explain your choices, to justify your goals, to prove you are not judging anyone, or to back off, to pull back your savings just enough so the friction goes away. To spend a little more, to lend a little more, to let the budget slip just enough to feel normal again. And most people do not realize they are doing it. It happens slowly. One dinner at a time, one loan at a time, one you only live once comment at a time. Until 3 years later, you look at your account and wonder why you are not further along. That is not a math problem, that is a social problem. And the solution is not to become a different person. The solution is to become more deliberate about what information you share, with whom, and when. Here is how to protect what you are building without becoming a secretive or antisocial person. Step 1. Establish a private financial identity before you establish a public one. This means, do not share savings milestones publicly until you are far enough along that social friction cannot meaningfully derail your trajectory. What does far enough along mean in real numbers? A general threshold that financial researchers refer to as the threshold of resilience. The point at which your savings are generating enough momentum that a single disruption cannot collapse the system is roughly 12 to 18 months of consistent, uninterrupted contributions. If you have been consistently saving for less than 18 months, you are in the most fragile phase of the entire process. This is not the time to go public. Step 2. Create a separation between your financial life and your social identity. This does not mean lying. It means not volunteering. When someone asks how you are doing, you say you are doing well. When someone asks if you want to go out to dinner, you say yes or you say no, based on whether you want to go, not to signal your budget status. You do not announce that you cannot afford something when the truth is you have chosen to prioritize something else. I'm not really feeling it tonight is a complete sentence. I'm trying to save money right now is an invitation for a conversation that will not go anywhere useful. The question you want to stop answering in public is, what are you doing with your money? The answer to that question is none of their business. Not because you are doing something wrong, because the answer creates social dynamics that work against you. Step 3. Identify your financial accountability partner, singular, and keep it to one person. Research from the Dominican University of California found that people who write down their goals and share them with a single supportive accountability partner are 33% more likely to achieve those goals than people who either keep them entirely secret or share them broadly with a group. One person, not a group chat, not a dinner table announcement. One person who is also building or who is unconditionally in your corner, or both. This person gets the real numbers. This person knows what you are investing. This person can celebrate your milestones without the complicated dynamics that come from proximity and scarcity. Everyone else gets, I'm doing well, things are good. Step 4. Handle loan requests with a fixed personal policy, not case-by-case emotional decisions. Decide now before anyone asks what your policy is. Not a feeling, a policy. A policy sounds like this: I do not lend money to family or friends, but I am happy to give what I can give as a gift. That is a complete, non-negotiable, non-personal policy. It removes you from the equation. It is not that you cannot lend to them, it is that you do not lend to anyone. The policy protects the relationship because it takes the individual out of it. If your policy is to give occasional gifts, set a ceiling: $50. $100, whatever is meaningful to you and genuinely painless to your plan. Give it without expectation, and then stop. A $100 gift that you give freely costs you $100. A $1,500 loan you give reluctantly costs you $13,390 in future wealth and probably the relationship too. Step 5. Let your results do the announcing for you. Years from now. There is a version of this where, at 45, you quietly pay cash for something significant. Where you retire early, and the people around you ask how. Where you have the conversation then, when the results are undeniable and the process is complete, and the social friction can no longer touch the outcome. That is the announcement worth making. Not the $11,000 savings balance at 27. Let the math build quietly. The math does not care if anyone knows about it. Marcus is now 42. He has $214,000 in his investment accounts. He is proud of that number. But he ran the math recently. What his trajectory would have been without the disruptions, without the loans he never fully recovered, without the 14 months of reduced contributions over his 20s, when the social friction was heaviest. His financial advisor estimates that Marcus's current number should be closer to $298,000. He lost approximately $84,000. Not to bad investments. To dinner conversations. Denise is now 42. She has $301,000 in her investment accounts. Same starting city, same starting income, same starting age, same investment strategy. She did not earn more. She did not pick better stocks. She just kept the information private long enough for the compounding to become unkillable. The gap between them is $87,000 and growing. Neither of them is extraordinary. Both of them are reasonable people who made reasonable decisions. The only variable was who knew about the money. You now know something that most personal finance content will never tell you directly. The math of wealth building is not your biggest obstacle. The social math is. And the social math has a solution. Not secrecy for its own sake, but strategic privacy during the period when your momentum is most fragile. Protect the process. Let the results speak when the results are ready to speak. Here is my question for you. Have you ever had a savings goal derailed, even partially, because someone in your life found out about your money? Drop a yes or a no in the comments, or tell me what happened. I read every single one. If you enjoy videos about building real wealth and escaping financial stress, subscribe to Randy Talks Money. And I will see you in the next one.